Yes, sir.
Yeah, just three questions really. One around the CBD area with regard to where obviously a significant number of businesses have moved out of there, moved out into suburbs at this stage, typically taken leases for which could be anywhere from 3 years to 8, 10 years. How do you see the impact of that moving forward with the revamp of the CBD? Because what you might find is that a number of those businesses find that they can operate quite successfully and well outside that CBD area now. And so do you see any impact on that in terms of moving back into what might be new buildings when they're built?
Yeah, look, we're very concerned about obviously businesses moving out to the suburbs, but obviously right now it's really important they do keep themselves functioning. We've got 52,000 people work in the central city every day. Now those people are to get back to work, so we do encourage people to try and get themselves operating. It'd be good if they didn't have to sign up anything from, as you say, a 3 to a 10-year lease. And some of the things I'm hearing is, these property owners are now, sort of taking advantage of these times to increase the rents out in the suburban areas. Long term, that's going to have an effect for them. But we need to create a city centre that's really, really exciting, and I think you'll find those businesses will want to come back. Now, the rebuild's going to take some years, and that's part of why we've got this thing called Restart 2019-11. I'm working with some property-owned business owners to get that up and running, a small hub to incubate some of those retailers that haven't found anywhere else to go at the moment and keep them operating. But there are some people who have gone out to some areas where you go, they're not going to survive there. They're just not. The central city businesses, we're lucky that they're location specific. In other words, they don't operate in a mall. They couldn't function there. It doesn't fit their culture of how they see their business. So I think we'll get the vision right, do the right things, we'll get those businesses back, and we'll get new ones. I mean, once the thing starts developing, I think it's pretty exciting, and just got to get it right.
We'll just take one more question, sir. Yep.
Okay, just I guess with regard to development, you talked about wanting to get 30-odd thousand people back into the inner city, etc. You brushed on it just before. I think one of the largest constraints to that is certainly around the Christchurch City Council, who I don't believe are supportive of that in the development sense through that levy process you talked about. The levy process that they have sitting in there is so astronomical, it prohibits people from wanting to move and develop into town. So unless they do something majorly about that, they won't enhance people and entice people to come into that area to live.
Well, look, again, we'd made some quite significant headway with the council on that, and it was some of the items that we just talked about were actually on the table to be voted on just before the earthquake, so it sort of just stalled that process. But it is something, again, it's incentives. We need to have the right incentives in place, and there should be a range of them out there for green technology, incentivising residential, and incentivising people to want to develop in the city. We've got to give people confidence that it's going to happen, and it's going to happen quickly, and it's going to be something that we're going to be proud of.
All right, more questions. Yes, sir, we'll go there, and then over here. Yep.
As an old citizen of Christchurch, I would like to suggest to you that High Street be abolished. It's something that runs right through the cross-section of everything, creates a whole lot of problems. Here's your opportunity, get rid of it. All the best for you.
Yes, that's a hard one to answer.
Yes, madam. Yep, go up.
Sorry, Paul, I'm interested in your thoughts of 30,000 people living in the central city, plus businesses coming back. It isn't a very large space. Talking about not having high-rise buildings, is it big enough to have business and 30,000 residents?
I believe it is. I mean, we've had a lot of wasteland in the central city. Now you've got to think about the buildings that we had in there. Many of them are going to come down now. They were dysfunctional from the ground up. When you see them now, they're empty and they're half deconstructed. You sort of think, how did a business operate in there? And you get above the ground, half of it was empty because the buildings, the types and the shapes of the offices just were dysfunctional. So now's the opportunity to fix all that. Terraced houses, you could get up to 4 or 5 levels. I don't think anybody going much higher than that at the moment, just the way things are. But if it's actually done right and it's connected in a way that actually makes people want to live there, I mean, terraced housing happens all over the world, so and you can squeeze a lot of people in a small space. Obviously, we want to make it inviting so people want to live there, so it's going to need some green space around it. It's going to need to link in well with the hospitality and the retail and the commercial precincts. So as long as it's done right, there's a lot of space now, and I think it could be achieved.
Paul, thank you very much. You did mention that the shopping centre should be smaller, and I agree with that. I think the footprint at the present time is far too big. So do you have any ideas of where you think the footprint should be?
Well, obviously, city malls, obviously the first place you'd start and would spread from there. So you may have the Cashel, the High and the Colombo areas for your retail precinct. Keep it in a slightly tighter area though. It's what creates the vibrancy. Interesting enough, just before this last earthquake, I ran the Boxing Day replay where we had thousands of people in town, all enjoying themselves. Lovely day, of course. But I think also the buildings need to interconnect, so on those horrible easterly and southerly days that people can walk between the buildings to the shops, so they don't have to necessarily be out in the street, but then on the sunny day they can enjoy that as well. But it certainly needs to be small. It was too far spread out. It didn't create the critical mass and the vibrancy that was a problem. But again, we need to stop the spread of the suburban mall as well. I think that's important. We've got too many of them.
All right, we can take a couple more. We'll go to the wings. Yes. We'll take you two.
Yes, good morning, folks. Keith Sanders speaking here. Good morning, Paul.
Morning.
Read the transport situation. I recall, as I've lived around New Zealand and always come back to Canterbury, that we're going to have to get away from one Kiwi, one car. We need a light rail system around here. In 1974, Sir W. Robinson recommended a light rail system around Auckland. We all know where Auckland sits today. Massive problems. I lived in Onawa Road with 50,000 cars coming down onto the motorway. We need that rapid transport system. We need to reenact Morehouse Avenue. We need to set the corridors for double tracking from Rolleston, from Littleton, from Rangiora to Kaiapoi. The future age, I travel around the world. When I go to places like Brisbane, I do not need a motor car. I can go to wherever I want on the rail system. Thank you very much.
All right.
Yeah, look, I agree with you. The transport system needs to be radically addressed. I mean, you're right, one person per car is a problem. Unfortunately, driving a car is so convenient, and the public transport isn't. And for me personally, bus isn't sexy. I'd rather get on a tram or a light rail. And as you quite rightly pointed out, we've got satellite cities out there, Rolleston, Rangiora, Kaiapoi, out to Sumner, and we need to connect all those things up, and then we need a proper railway station so it all functions.
Yes, right down the back. Yep.
On the same topic, cyclists and walkers and cars just don't get on. I know a lot of people who would like to go out and cycle. We'd like to roll to cycle into town and back. We'd like to roll to cycle to the malls and back. But we take our cars because all the time we see people being killed on the roads when they've been on their bikes. We can't even get across out to McLean's Island because of the motorway. It's getting worse. You have to take your car, put your bikes on the back, go out, cycle, and then take your car home. It's just ridiculous. And I haven't heard of any way there's going to be of getting across that motorway, even at one point by Sawyers Arms Road. I don't know whether there is. What are you going to do about the clash between traffic and people going into and around town?
Well, part of that is we probably need to slow the call down. As I stated, that removing the on-street parking and replacing better off-street parking, perhaps doing it on the fringe so the city centre becomes a bit more friendly, We don't have those large buses because they're just as dangerous as cars, in fact, if not more so. Smaller shuttles that take people in and out from the east and the west into the city centre. But we do need better more functional cycle lanes. There's no question about it.
Sorry, ma'am, we can't hear. We can't hear you. All right. On that note, I am going to have to leave it there. Paul, thank you very much for your presentation. All the best to your business association. Let's hear from Paul Lonsdale. Cheers, man.